at Metropole TV KE across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. You are watching Metropole Television, but most certainly business. Welcome to your official sector trends this morning. This is the introduction to that. Now, the weekly Mombasa tea auction held on 23rd and 24th August 2021 had 8.4 million kilograms of tea offered for sale, with the tea auction recording a slight increase in price, with a kilogram selling at an average price of $2.04 compared to $1.96 during the previous sale held on the 16th and the 17th August 2021. Now, the amount offered was however less than the 8.9 million kilograms for the same period last year, and from 8.8 million kilograms offered during the previous sale, but the 6.47 million kilograms sold in comparison to 7.4 million kilograms for the same period last year, and 6.5 million kilograms sold during the previous sale. Now, this comes days after the Kenya Tea Growers Association, KTGA, an umbrella body for the multinational firms, wrote to the East African Tea Traders Association, IATA, which manages the auction, informing it of a decision to set minimum prices just a month after the state introduced reserve price for smallholder farmers. Joining us this morning to discuss more on the performance of the local tea auction and the sector at large in 2021 is KTGA Chief Executive Officer Apollo Kiari. Mr. Apollo Kiari, good morning, sir, and welcome to Business AM.
Good morning, Elijah, and good to meet you again this morning.
Good to have you around. Let's get crunching those numbers this morning. And just before I cross over to you, let's talk about where we've been in terms of that price trend at the Mombasa auction. Oh yeah, we can start from the volume of tea that we've exported in 2021, all the way from 2015 to 2021. You can see the numbers are looking up, and 2020 was a good year for us as well in terms of that, because that's where we had that area as well. If you look at the volume of tea, you can see exactly in terms of metric tons that we exported outside the country. Now let's cross over then to the value as well, which is going to correspond. You'll see that 2020, the price, the value really corresponds to the volume of tea. But if you look at that 2020, the value really doesn't correspond with the volume of tea that we took out. And 2021, we're racking up those numbers. Hopefully, by the end of 2021, we'll be seeing exactly where we stand in terms of that value. Now let's cross over then and talk about that Mombasa tea auction trend, and you can actually follow it all the way to July, and you can see when we started talking about those price caps and minimum reserve, that's when that difference really started jumping up to where we are, to slightly above $1. But you can see exactly where we're coming from if you track that price trend in as from April, May and June. That's when we're talking about that price being below $1 mark. All right, so let's get into the conversation. Mr. Kiari, what is behind the price correction at the local auction?
Okay, thank you, Elijah. What we are seeing in the auction price movement is nothing very strange.
Yes.
Tea being a commodity product, it also relies heavily on the vagaries of weather, and it goes in the productivity depends on how the weather is behaving.
Yes.
In economics, when there is high production, there is always what you call low demand, because there's plenty of the product in the market. The numbers you're talking about from March, April, May, June, that was what we call the cold weather. We had situations whereby, and this is a plant that is growing, so it needs a balance of both cold weather, rain, and sunshine.
Yes.
So if it's extremely cold, it continues to rain, the crop hibernates. It's a live thing, so it hibernates and it doesn't shoot. So that makes it difficult for productivity to go up. But that period we are talking about is the period when we had some rains early in the month of March, April, and then there was a boom of the crop around June, and then that's the time the prices went down significantly. And then as we speak now, we are going to have a very delicate kind of season, because October, November are usually boom months.
Yes.
We get high productivity during those months. And that conversely means that the buyers have a lot of choice to make. And so the offerings in prices also tend to dip.
Yes.
So if you go backwards from 2010, 2014 was a very bad year for the industry.
Yes.
Globally, tea also behaves funny. Every 4 years, there's a spike and then it goes down. A spike and then goes up. We cannot explain that phenomenon, Raja, but that culminated in last year, 2020. And you remember that's the time farmers made a lot of noise that the prices were very low.
Yes.
So we tried to explain that that is cyclical. There's nothing we can do about it. The world demand for tea is not coming out. The offerings is very low, and then also the productivity was very high. So conversely, what happened is that buyers are not buying, and the price, the productivity was there, so the prices went down. So it's cyclic, one, in terms of the global trends, and then secondly, the weather patterns. We depend on the vagaries of weather. So we cannot do anything about that, Raja.
Yes.
So we just have to work and try to balance our operations so that we're able to sustain the industry. In terms of the latest price, minimum price determination, and the government instructions to KTDA to offer certain price, not to offer their tea at below a certain price, that is not what we will call a sustainable kind of business management.
Yes.
Or,
yes.
Because what are you what minimum are you talking about? What grade of tea are you talking about? If I was to break the tea grades for you, you'd have about 6-7 grades. So which grade are we really talking about that we are going to sell at this minimum price?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, what we are saying and what we would like to see happening is you cannot determine a minimum price. Let the economists the economic determinants
Yes.
determine what the offering is of the product and the offering in the prices, but let the persons who sell our tea, who are our brokers, be able to chase the price for us.
Yes.
Push the buyer that if you sell at this price, if you buy at this price, tomorrow you'll not have the same farmer offering the same tea to you, because
yes,
you give him a price that is not sustainable.
Pretty much.
That is the kind of discussion we need to have.
Yes, that's why I'm coming in with the next question, Mr. Carey, because even though you say that we cannot actually go into price controls, because then we saw what the government did, then a month later, Mr. Carey, but your association also did announce that you had plans to set a minimum price on the teas. So let's confirm that this morning. Did you actually get to set a minimum price for your teas? And if so, what is your minimum now? Because that capping from the government still goes on. They've not announced that now they've gotten done away with it.
To set the record clear, Elijah, and if I can share with you the statement that we issued in July.
Yes.
We say that each individual company, each individual factory will engage its brokers so that they can decide, they can come up with a discussion with the buyer.
Yes.
That don't sell my tea at a price that will make me close shop.
We did
not specifically set a minimum price. It's impossible to do that.
Yes.
The discussion is, as I said, let the broker learn after a good price.
Yes.
So that it keeps pushing the buyer to a price that breaks even for me.
Yes.
So, but we cannot wake up in the morning and say, my minimum price is 190 shillings per kilo of made tea. Because,
yes,
as we said in our statement, what grade are we putting a minimum on? Is it grade 1? Is it PF1? Is it BP1? Is it the dust? Is it which particular grade are we putting a minimum price?
Yes.
So the issue here is that because there are several grades, it is the broker who is my intermediary with the buyer to push my price up to a level whereby I tell him at that point I'm happy.
I am comfortable. Yes, Mr. Kirby, that's why you come in, because if you look at the statement that you released, it sort of opened a lot of misinterpretation, because you're saying, well, for us, we are not going to take the same avenue that we've seen the government do, especially with KTDA. For us, what we've done is that we're going to say, let our brokers then determine, and the farmers to determine what is a good price to sell. In terms of exposure, Mr. Kerry, who is exposed at that level? Because the farmer has to sell, and the broker looks like he has the way to go when it comes to determining which price they want to get it at.
The person who is exposed here is usually the buyer, the producer.
Yes.
Because once you offload your tea in the auction, you have no say over it again.
Yes.
You have absolutely no say. It's just like the way we used to take goats and cows to the local market at an auction.
Yes.
It is the highest bidder who will take the cow home. So at that point in time, me as a producer, once I offload my tea and I give it to my broker to sell it, the only thing I tell him is chase the best price for me.
Yes.
There will be several offers coming to him. So the highest bidder is the one where he'll hit the hammer and say that bidder has offered the best price for my producer.
Yes.
And he'll release that tea to that particular buyer. Now, if it is beyond what I would call my cost of production, well and good. I've broken even. If it is below my cost of production, I bite the bullet and I say I live to face another day. But because I need still to pay my bills, my service providers, my workers, the operations on the ground needs to be paid every other day.
Yes.
And to put it into perspective, Elijah, when those minimum prices were pronounced in the media, do you know that the offerings by the buyers went down? There was a lot of outrots that were, many teas were pulled out of the auction because there was no buyer willing to give that minimum price.
Yes.
So out of that, it continued to a trend whereby some of the producers quietly informed their brokers, please release my tea because I need to meet my financial obligations.
Pretty much.
Yes.
So when we look, I just want us to move slowly then to the next part as well. Mr. Kerry, when you interpret what the government is really trying to achieve with this through the Ministry of Agriculture, they're saying if we introduce a minimum, yes, they do know that our Mombasa auction is one of the biggest auctions as well across the world, is that people will still have to come here to bid for our tea. But then when they come here, because we want to protect the farmer as well, we'll tell them this is we do understand that international prices are a bit shaky right now, fine, but when you come here, this is the minimum. When you look at that, Mr. Kerry, from that point, it seems as if the government has a way of thinking around it. So I want you to respond to that, Mr. Kerry, and then say, do we expect also for the price of the local auction to continue rising as a factor of these price minimums that we have here as a country? And that's also the Ministry of Agriculture.
What government is trying to do is very good. It has the interest of the farmer at heart, and it's in trying to set a minimum price so that any buyer who comes to pick our tea is well aware that that's the price he has to pay for the tea.
Yes.
It's good. It's a good initiative. But from an economic perspective, it is not possible to do that because this is not a commodity that the manufacturer releases from the factory line, or a piece of jeans trouser.
Yes.
That the manufacturer in the industrial area says, this is my price, take it or leave it. and that's the end of it. But in tea, once you offer it you produce it, you can't keep it in your warehouses. You can't continue storing it. You'll be losing value for it.
Yes.
So you offer it to the market. If you tell the buyer that this is the minimum that you will have to take my tea at, he has options. Kenya, yes, is the largest exporter, but not the largest producer.
Yes.
You see? So the teas that exit out of Mombasa is not 100% Kenyan tea. We have teas. Teas, other auctions all over the world. We have auctions in Sri Lanka and India. Option to go to other auctions.
Yes.
So it's an issue of you as a producer. What impact does this minimum price have in terms of attracting the buyer to come and pick up your tea? So it's an issue of balancing.
Yes.
And it's a free economy, and we should be it should be led to pray. But it's up to us and our buyers to be able to chase and push our buyers to give us good prices, so that tomorrow they'll still find us.
Yes.
Otherwise, if they don't do that, then we're gonna cross shop, and the kind of quality of tea that they get from us will not be available.
Pretty much. All right, Mr. Kerry, let's cross over to the next conversation point this morning. And if you could actually just go back to that data in terms of volume and value of tea that we did export in 2020. Mr. Kerry, you'll agree with me indeed that 2020, in terms of the volume of the tea that we exported from the country, it was the biggest one yet in terms of those metric tons. But if you look at the corresponding value, if you could jump there as well, you will see the value that we got out of that volume is not the biggest, meaning that the prices were actually starting to correct in 2020, just like you had said. But therefore begs the question, Mr. Kerry, it's as if our market, as a country, we have no say in terms of the prices that we command, especially in the international market. Fine. But what can we do as an industry and as a country, therefore, now to start having a say in our prices in terms of the teas that we remove out of this country to the outside market?
It's good, Raja, that you've noted that the production was very high that particular season, that particular year, without a corresponding high price per unit value. As we said, Kenya continues to expand its productivity base.
Yes.
You come to the rural areas where tea is grown, everybody who has a piece of land that can grow tea is putting up more bushes. The reason is, of all the agricultural commodities, tea is the only one that is remaining on its feet, that is offering a plate of food for the farmer on the table. Every month, there's a payment coming. Whether it's adequate or not, that's another story to discuss. But there's a money coming in every other month to the farmer.
Yes.
So meaning that even areas that never used to grow tea, I can tell you, are starting to put what we call on the borderlines.
Yes.
Because tea has grown within a certain altitude of within our climatic or geographical regions. You'll find areas that never used to grow tea, they've started putting tea bushes. Counties are offering free seedlings to farmers to put up more tea. The plantation sector continue to improve their productivity by putting high-yielding clones that produce more tea within a smaller area of land. So productivity continues to grow up. But conversely, on the other end, tea consumption in the world is not increasing.
Yes.
Globally, if you look at the statistics of 2020 or 2019, what was produced, 6 billion kilos of tea, 6.2 billion, sorry, what was consumed was below 6 billion, meaning there was an overproduction, and about 0.1 of a billion, 0.2 of a billion kilos was not consumed, meaning that the preferences in the world market continues to change. So prices do not change. Are not actually, Elijah, if you look at the price, global price offerings, it has not gone up for the last 10 years. yet productivity continues to go up globally. Meaning we are sitting on a time bomb, and we'll not be able at one point in time, if we continue producing more tea to make any money. Tea will no longer be a viable business. So what we'd like to do is, as a country, is to ensure that we don't produce more tea than we are producing, because you cannot overproduce and expect big prices, yet you are not the only one producing, and you're not the one consuming, because even our consumption capacity is just laughable. Only 5% of the total tea that is produced. So what we are saying is, as a country, can we ensure that we produce adequate tea, quality tea, so that it offers better prices? Yeah, don't overflood the market with teas. It will not be any good for us. There's also an issue that we call scaling, meaning that if you are running a piece of land that is below half an acre, whether you produce how many kilos of tea per year, you'll never break even. That is scientifically determined. FAO did a study on that. It's on the table. And we are telling our farmers, if you have less than half an acre, please don't do tea. Do something else. Because you continue complaining for the rest of the world, for the rest of your life. I mean. So as a country, we need to improve quality, reduce our productivity levels, then the prices will start going up.
Pretty much. All right, Mr. Paulo Carey, I want you to respond to these questions in just 2 minutes, if you may then. When you look at our peers, especially in the international market, are we doing something, are they doing something different other than us when it comes to the way that they market their teas? And the last one that I want you to respond to this morning, Paulo Carey, in those 2 minutes is, the cost of production has been an issue. In fact, even this price caps that we're talking about here is essentially because of the cost of production. And we're talking about 2021, what could be the comfortable cost of production per kg in the country right now, and how can we as a country move there, Mr. Paulo Carey?
The cost of production of our teas is an average of 190 shillings, 200 shillings per kilo of made tea. Okay?
Yes.
So if you are selling your teas below 190, you are just playing around with money.
Yes.
Pulling money from this pocket to this other pocket, and it's disappearing. So for you to make very good break-even margins, anything above $2 is good. It's sustainable.
Yes.
Anything below that, then we are talking about an industry that is on a downward trend.
Yes.
And you find people stopping to do tea and going for other commodities and other livelihoods.
Pretty much. Mr. Paulo Carey, thank you very much for taking your time this morning to talk to us this morning at Metropole Television. Now you do know. Anything above $2, maybe, but anything below that, according to the KGTA CEO, we are playing with money. What is the way out? We shall be taking a look at exactly the way this particular industry is performing, and we shall be reporting it back to you. We take a short break. Once we come back, the certified accountants in the country are back at it again. How, and will they have their way? We talk about it once we come back.